So welcome students, I am PS Bakshi and today's topic is why guns are so heavy, and also we can take that topic as recoil of gun. Now many students astonished that why the guns are made so heavy. So that is also a case of conservation of linear momentum. Now we take gun and bullet as a system, then we can take up that topic. Now if the gun is having, let's assume the gun is having a mass of capital M, and obviously you know that if we are firing a bullet, the gun always jerks back, which is called recoil. Okay, and let's assume that velocity is capital V. Now obviously our gun is firing a bullet, so let's assume any bullet now that is having a mass of small m. Let's assume that mass is small m and the velocity of the bullet is small v. Now we are having four things here: capital M, mass of gun; capital V, the recoil velocity of the gun. Now recoil velocity means the gun always going to be jerked backward when we firing a bullet. So that velocity is known as recoil velocity, and small m is bullet's mass and small v is going to be the velocity of the bullet. Now as a gun and bullet system, we take it as a system, which means the initial momentum of gun is going to be zero. Now why it is going to be zero? Because the gun is at rest. So which means if there is no motion, there is no kind of velocity, and momentum is mass into velocity. That is why initial momentum of the gun is going to be zero. Now what about the final momentum? Final momentum of the gun. Now we have four variables there. So capital M and capital V, which is going to be the mass of the gun and the velocity, recoil velocity of the gun. Yes, and small m, which is going to be the mass of the bullet, and small v, which is going to be the velocity of the bullet, which is moving in the forward direction. Okay, now that is going to be your final momentum. Now what is conservation of linear momentum? According to law of conservation of linear momentum, the initial and final momentum of the system always remains constant. So which means according to law of conservation of momentum, if we take that as P1 and take that as P2, the momentums, so therefore according to this law, P1 should be equal to P2. The initial momentum is equal to the final momentum. Now if we are going to equate, now P1 is going to be 0 here. Now final momentum is capital MV plus small mv. Now that is for gun and that is for the bullet. Now from that you can easily calculate the velocity as well, the recoil velocity, which is going to be as minus mv upon capital M. Now that is going to be the expression for recoil velocity of gun. Now you can easily make that formula as well. From that formula, the negative symbol shows only the direction which is opposite to the bullet. Now bullet is moving in that direction and the recoil velocity is in opposite direction. That negative symbol shows the opposite direction. Now from that formula you can also assume that now if we increase the m here, then the recoil velocity is going to be low, which means we have to make the gun heavier to increase the mass of the gun higher. Then we can have a very low recoil velocity, and those guns are very good which are quite heavy, because they are heavy because they want to reduce the recoil velocity of the gun. And one more thing, from that type of gun you always put up that backside of gun to your shoulder, because if you are having a recoil jerk, then if you are having a space between your shoulder and the gun, then that can damage your shoulder as well. So it is always advised in NCC camps, and if you are going to have a training for the army or training for the police, okay, you are always advised to take the gun right in front of your shoulder, and it should be supported by your shoulder, because if you are having some kind of jerk, then you can adjust that, okay. So, and if we are talking about revolvers, the revolvers are always going to can create a jerk to your wrist as well. So that is why always advised to hold the wrist with the gun in your left hand if you are holding, if you are lefty, okay. So because I am lefty, that's why I am talking about the left hand, okay. So that is all about why the guns are made heavy, because if we increase the mass of the gun, then when we can decrease the recoil velocity. Now that is the moral of story, and that is also the expression for recoil velocity. And hope you have enjoyed that, and like and subscribe our channel as well, and stay blessed and enjoy study. Thank you so much.